We're going to go over the recommended cleaning procedures for the 12-inch 308. We recommend that you only shoot match grade ammunition out of these. I understand that you guys are using the 168 grain Federal boat-tailed hollow point, and that's what we recommend you guys stay with. Basic cleaning procedures, it's going to be pretty standard to your bolt action rifles as far as punching the barrel, using whatever cleaning products that you guys have. That's what we recommend you guys stay with. What I'm going to go over is basically the bolt, the chamber, the inside of the upper receiver, and then we're going to go into the gas port cleaning. So on the bolt, all I recommend is that you use something similar to this. It's just a gun scrubber. This breaks down all the solvent and carbon that builds up after time. This can be done every 400 rounds. Most of this bolt will be pretty much cleaned with just a simple wipe down. As you see, this bolt was pretty dirty, and now I wipe it down with a rag. Because of the NP3 coating on the bolt carrier and the chrome bolts, it allows a lot of the carbon to just be wiped off without any solvents. But every 400 rounds, we recommend that you guys spray this down with some sort of solvent like this gun scrubber. Okay, on the bolt carrier, the bolt, the firing pin, and the roller cam pin, every time that you guys clean the weapon, I would scrub or spray it down with gun scrubber, just a little bit, just to get all the carbon out of the insides of the crevices. This will get all the carbon, everything out, and it's going to dry really quick. And once it's dried, I just take a rag and just kind of wipe all the excess filament off of it. I want to make sure that my lugs are cleaned out, so I'm just wiping those down. The gun scrubber's taking all of that stuff off. I'm going to wipe off the little bit of the bolt face so it's nice and clean. And I would do this every time that you guys clean your weapon. Then once I have my bolt carrier back together, I've wiped it down, I've sprayed it with some gun scrubber. I'm just gonna put a light coat of rem oil. I'm only going for the areas that are actually touching. So my contact points are on the rails on the side here, the bottom, and then up on the shoulders here. So I'm just doing a little spray, and that's about the extent of my bolt carrier. Then what I will do on the upper receiver, I'll take my gun scrubber again, and I'm going to spray it into the chamber, and I'm going to spray it up into the upper receiver, and if a little bit goes down the barrel, it's okay, because you guys are going to punch it with your punch rods anyways. So I'm spraying it out, and I'm just allowing some of that gunk to just come out. This will dry really fast. Take my rag, I'm just going to wipe out a little bit of the upper receiver. And just for a little bit of good measure, I just lightly coat the inside of the upper receiver with a little bit of the rem oil, or whatever lightweight type of coating that's good for the environment that you guys are in. Okay, on the lower receiver, I'm still using my gun scrubber. I'm just going to tilt the lower receiver upside down. I'm just going to spray a little bit into that trigger mechanism. Just get a little bit of that gunk out. Like I said before, this dries really quick. Just take my rag, and wipe some off. Just kind of cleaning the inside out. Once it's dry, I'm just going to take a light coat, just spray it in there. And the rem oil is nice because it'll eventually dissipate, so it's better to have to keep putting on some lubrication than have too much in there that's always collecting dust. Okay, I'm going to take my buffer spring out. Okay, just going to wipe the inside of my buffer tube. Buffer tube gets neglected a lot. Buffer and buffer spring do as well. Taking the buffer off. All I'm doing is generally wiping it down. It's got a good slick surface, so most of your carbon gets cleaned up. I just put my rag inside my buffer spring, and I'll just run this around the spring with the rag inside. and it's just wiping off any excess lubrication, dirt, debris, carbon. Once that's been wiped off, my buffer back in the buffer spring, my buffer spring back in, and it's set. That's the completion of your lower. Every 300 to 400 rounds, we recommend that you guys take a standard drill, punch rod, and a bore brush, and just give it the inside a good cleaning on the chamber. What happens is you get shavings, you get all sorts of particles and debris inside the chamber, which can change pressure issues. It can cause pressure issues. It can cause your brass not to extract. I usually just take a little bit of the gun scrubber, spray it on there. As you see here, all I'm doing is just running it in the bore. Okay, this is getting all of that extra stuff out there, and it's keeping it nice and smooth. All right, every 300 to 400 rounds, I'm going to clean my gas regulator, my piston rod, my piston plug. Okay, so I'm going to disassemble here. Again, I'm going to take some of the gun scrubber. Just going to spray out my regulator. I'm going to take an AP brush or a wire brush, and I want to give my regulator a good wipe down. You'll see that there's a lot of carbon buildup in here because on a piston system, that's where your carbon's being expended from. So it's all coming up into your gas regulator versus most of it going back into your chamber and into your upper receiver. So about every 300 rounds, I'm going to just clean this out, give it a nice wipe down. I'm going to push my spring in a little bit just to make sure that I get all the carbon buildup inside of there out. Once I have this cleaned up pretty good, I'm going to wipe it down. Give it a light, just a really light coat of rim oil. And I'm just going to rub it in with my hands just so that my springs and everything stay nice and lubricated. Your piston rod gets pretty dirty, but it's really easy to clean. Take my gun scrubber, wipe it down. Take my AP brush, just kind of get all the big gunks of carbon off of there. Clean up the face a little bit. Okay, the piston, same thing. Rub it down with my AP brush, wire brush. Okay, one of the parts that gets neglected the most is going to be the actual gas block. Inside that gas block is where most of your carbon is going to build up. So I'm going to take my gun scrubber, I'm going to spray it in here. I'm just going to try to loosen up as much carbon and stuff in there. I'm going to take my drill that I cleaned my chamber with again. I'm just going to clean out the inside of this, and it just creates less friction, less drag. Like I said, every 300 to 400 rounds. And then you can take your AP brush or your wire brush, you can run it on the inside and just kind of get everything, all the little fine-tuned stuff that you need to get. Put my rod back in, my piston back in, put my gas plug back in. That's it. As you can see on the side of the bolt, on the side of the bolt carrier, there's no lubrication. Okay, we don't need to have lubrication. The bolt carrier does not need to be saturated in lubrication, just the contact points on the bolt like I showed. This will help keep a lot of the dust and gunk from building up on that carrier and causing any type of malfunctions. That's it.